One morning, creators using Gumroad logged in and found their fee structure had changed overnight. There was no negotiation, no notice period that they'd agreed to in advance, just a new number. That's not a hypothetical, and it's not the only one. This video walks through 3 real documented cases of changing the deal on people who had no say in it after those people already built their businesses on top of these software as a service or SaaS platforms. Here's the first one, and it's the clean example of the pattern. For years, Gumroad ran a sliding scale fee. The more you sold over your lifetime on the platform, the lower your rate dropped, all the way down to 3.5% for creators who'd built up serious volume. That's the deal a lot of people built their pricing around. Some had run the math for years, assuming the rate would hold because it was the rate they'd earned. Let me show you here. This is on the Wayback Machine, and this is going back to what the platform was on July 25th, 2021. And if you take a look, you can see it right here. If you start off, you're not earning anything, Gumroad's fee is 9%. Once you hit $1,000, that drops to 7%, and on and so forth, from $10,000 to 5%, $100,000 to 3%, $1 million, 2.9%. That's even better than what my research was. That looked pretty good. So here's what happened. In 2023, Gumroad moved everyone to a flat 10% plus 50 cents transaction fee. You can see it right here very proudly on the page, even today in July of 2026. One tier, no volume discount. For a creator who had earned their way from down to 2.9%, that's not a small adjustment. That's their rate almost tripling overnight on every sale going forward with no transition plan around it. Imagine if you had actually worked your way to $1 million in sales, and then instead of having that 2.9% take, it was a 10% take plus 50 cents. Furthermore, take a look over here. 30% fee if new customers find you by looking through their Discover Marketplace. Now, you've got no control if somebody discovers you on their marketplace. That's a way for them to grab more money out of your pocket for a sale that might have occurred the same way if you drove the traffic to your store. Look, I want to be fair to Gumroad here. They didn't hide this. They announced it. And there's a real argument that a simpler flat rate makes sense as a business matures. That's not really the point, though. The point is that a creator who built a pricing model, a margin, a business plan around one fee structure and woke up to a different one and had no vote in that decision. The deal changed. They didn't. They didn't get a chance to say, okay, what are you going to do? When are you going to do it? They announced it in advance, but they didn't have a vote. Most places where you have a business transaction is covered by an agreement where both of you sign off on it. That's not the case with SaaS services. All right, here's the second one. And this one hits a different nerve because it involves a promise that was supposed to be permanent and involves a promise you might have made to your own students. In June 2025, Teachable overhauled its pricing. It removed its free tier, removed grandfathered pricing for existing customers, and introduced hard course and student caps at every tier, regardless of how long someone had been on the platform. So you can see they mentioned over here, June 15th, 2025, they're retiring their old plans. And now there is no free tier like they used to have. The monthly price to start with, and this is billed annually, $29 a month. So, and these builder and growth and advanced plans, as they increase in price, well, you can see that it gets expensive. Now, fortunately, they do still have a monthly price, billed monthly. So instead of $29 a month, it's $39 a month. And then there's also a transaction fee of 7.5% on the starter plan. Fortunately, they take that off as you're already paying more money. There's a documented case that shows what that actually meant for one real customer, and that's on a Trustpilot review from March 2026. So let me show you that. Here's a review from someone named Lisa, and what you see in 2020, they were paying around $348 a year. Unlimited courses. By 2022, a new course caps forced an upgrade, costing Lisa $1,188 a year. By 2025, that climbed to $1,668 a year. And the tier they'd need just to keep the course volume they'd already built over years runs over $3,700 a year now. So you can see it right over here, costing $3,708 per year. Look, here's the part that lands hardest if you teach or run a membership. Plenty of creators sold their own students lifetime access back when Teachable's free plan made that promise pretty much easy to keep. If you don't have to pay for it, well, it's free. That promise was never really Teachable's to guarantee. It was built on Teachable staying the same. It didn't. Creators who made that promise in good faith are now paying $500 or more a year out of their own pocket just to keep a commitment they made to someone else with no grandfathering available to help them keep it. Think about that. If you promised somebody lifetime access to my course, and that was based off of the potential of a free plan from Teachable, then it didn't cost you anything to do that. Now suddenly, to give lifetime access, we're not talking about bringing in new students, just the ones that had already paid. That's going to cost you $500 a year. How many years go by until it was no longer profitable to sell the course in the first place? So where does that leave you? Breaking your word because Teachable broke its word. Think about what lifetime really meant in that deal. It meant lifetime access for as long as the underlying platform's pricing held. Nobody reads it that way when they make a promise. That's exactly why it's worth knowing before you build your own promise on someone else's terms. Lifetime usually means for the lifetime of the product, not your lifetime, but the lifetime of the product. Since they changed their product plans to something else, that product no longer existed. So in their mind, with Teachable's concern, the lifetime was over, so therefore their promise was over. It's a subtle little kind of thing. Most people don't realize it, but that is a big risk. Whenever you see lifetime, you got to read the fine print and determine, what does lifetime really mean? All right, so here's the third one, and it's the one that hits the hardest if you've ever actually built something on a platform, because it's not about price, it's about access to the work you already did. Say you build out real automations in ActiveCampaign, welcome sequences, tag-based triggers, segments that took real time to design and test. That's not a subscription fee. That's actual infrastructure your business runs on every day. That's your blood, sweat, and tears putting all of that information into the platform. They don't sell you that. You have to build it. Here's what happens now. If you cancel your account, here's what happens. Your automations stop running immediately, not gradually. So for example, if you canceled 10 months into an annual plan, you don't get the remaining 2 months to work your way off of it. All of your automations start working the moment that you cancel. The account then sits in a read-only state for about 30 days, so you can still log in and look at everything you built. You can see it laid out exactly as you left it, but you can't touch it, and it isn't doing anything. Then, after that window closes, it's gone. Contacts, history, automation, all of it. And I think that's the part you want to sit with. The system doesn't get taken away from you all at once. It gets frozen in place, fully visible, completely useless, right at the exact moment you need to keep running, and then it disappears on a timeline that you don't control. So why would you cancel? Well, maybe you are planning on migrating to something else, and you don't want to be hit with the next billing cycle that comes up for a platform that you're going to leave. You cancel it. But usually you plan these things a little bit in advance so that you can migrate over. And you don't really get to migrate your automation. Usually you don't get your tags. All you get is a CSV file with your customer names, their email address, and maybe a little bit of metadata. But the automations, the workflows, all those things that you built, all gone. You're going to have to figure out how to rebuild them from scratch on whatever your new platform is. And I want to be careful about what I'm actually claiming here, because it would be easy to hear these three stories and think this is about which companies to trust. It isn't. Gumroad, Teachable, ActiveCampaign all acted within their own terms of service. None of this required bad faith, and I'm not telling you any of these three are run by bad people. That's actually the uncomfortable part. This is how software as a service works. When you don't own the infrastructure your business runs on, someone else always gets to set the terms and reset them. The price, the version, the access. That's not a risk specific to any one vendor's character. It's a structural fact of renting. You're not in control. You're not in charge. The question was never, is this company trustworthy today? It's what's structurally possible tomorrow, no matter who's running it. Let's face it, sometimes these companies get sold, new management comes in, they change the rules. These 3 incidents are proof that question isn't hypothetical. So just to close this off, these stories aren't about bad companies. They're stories about what rented actually means, the moment the renter needs the thing to keep working exactly the way it did yesterday. There's a belief that makes all 3 of these things easier to shrug off, that you could always just export your data and walk away if things change. The next video tests that belief directly, because what actually survives in export and what doesn't survive isn't what most people assume. If this is the first time you've seen these 3 cases laid out together, please subscribe. That's what this channel does. It names the pattern before you're the one that it happens to.